Welcome to the Accepted Authority, where we help you solve a common growth challenge. As always, with me is Greg Rowith. G'day, Greg.
G'day, Andy. Really looking forward to what we've got today.
Yes, let's get straight into it. Today, we're going to talk about what goes into a successful marketing plan for a professional services firm. It's something that comes up quite a bit. You know, you see it on Google as well. When you type in what marketing professional services firms, people want to know about how do we go and market ourselves? And there's so many different answers, so many different types of questions. But I thought today we could really focus on, so what does that actually look like in sort of 2022, 2023? And let's just make it really simple. What are some of the things that we need to focus on and give you listening and watching some tools and some thinking to go away and then start to sort of execute, or at least know where to go. So perhaps, Greg, we'll frame it to start with. So when we talk about a sort of a marketing plan for a professional services firm, what comes to mind for you? What does that look like in today's language?
Yeah, and I think, today's language is the appropriate terminology here, because I think marketing planning has changed over the years. And I think when I think of a marketing plan, I tend to think of a plan that's got a number of campaigns sort of scheduled in across the year. And that could be, where you spend your advertising dollars, whether it's in magazines or, going back to when you produced ads on radio, public speaking events, or where you, try to plan to get engaged by speaking in front of specific audiences. So, mapping out a plan across a year. But I think these days, the vehicles or the media have changed. We now have social media. We have, internet. We have Zoom. We have a different mechanism to get in front of our audience. So, in respect to that, planning needs to change. But I think the fundamental thing that hasn't changed is the need to do the strategic part of the process first, and that comes back to really, who do we want to target? Who are our ideal clients? Where are they likely to be able to hear from us, or where do they hang out in the vernacular? So that reflects then on where we put our messages. And what's the actual message we want to deliver, and then how do we do that? So building a plan around those aspects first, and then rather than the plan of rollout, is how do we systemize our marketing outreach, our marketing communications? To me, I think these days marketing needs to be a system rather than a number of campaigns or a number of different events across the year. We've got the ability to systemize it all and really automate a lot of it these days, so that it doesn't take so much of our personal time and effort. So ideally we want to plan to do that.
I love that, Greg. And if we just go back a step and just talk about marketing for a second. And marketing means different things, different people, as you just mentioned. Some people think marketing is, put an ad in the Yellow Pages way back when.
Yeah.
And so I think if we think about from a professional services space, so there's marketing and there's advertising. Marketing is really about getting people to be aware of what you do. So it's education. That's essentially what marketing is to me. Advertising, when you're spending money on ads, whether it's the radio show, but more specifically is social media ads, Google ads, those sorts of things. That's a different kind of approach. That's where it's like a broad message to a lot of people. You put a net in the sea and you put a hook, you put a bit of bait there, and you just try and capture as many fish as you can. That's advertising, from what I think. Marketing is a more strategic approach where you actually know, as you say, who we're going to focus on, who we're going to target, producing awareness campaigns about what we do, who we help, talk about the problems that they really care about, And then over time, you get to be embedded with the brand, and you get to really understand that those people are the go-to in their space. So it's a long-term game. Advertising is very short window, and it's like a hit. It's like a hit of sugar. Let's do some advertising. Let's get a whole bunch of people in the net. Whereas marketing is really what we want to focus on. It's that long-term game. We're building awareness for what we do over time, and by default, successful marketing is actually getting the right sort of customers on board repeatedly and getting your existing customers to come back. To me, that's a marketing ecosystem from a professional services point of view. I mean, how do you kind of see that distinction?
Oh, yeah, a very good distinction there, Andy. And I think if I refer to one of my books back here that I used in my MBA, they talked about the 4 Ps of marketing. And since then, a few extra Ps have been added to that equation. But they talked about people, packaging, promotion, and advertising fits in that smaller bracket of promotion. And it's a subset of promotion. So marketing is the big, broad component, or big, broad strategy aspect of how we communicate what we do, and how we attract clients to our services or our firm. Advertising is one vehicle or one tool that we use in that toolkit to utilize to attract people. So a very small component of marketing. So I think marketing has a much broader scope. I was actually going through some of my old testimonials from clients the other day to prepare a presentation, and a number of them referred to the fact that after having gone through my program, they'd significantly increased their sales even without any additional advertising or promotions, just by getting extra work from existing clients. So marketing goes even to that level. How do you actually communicate to your existing clients what else you can do for them? And when you can significantly increase your revenue per client, it actually makes our job so much easier, because we don't need so many clients to fill our book or fill our calendar or increase our productivity. We can grow our business significantly just by the communication of what we can do for our clients, more than what they might realize when we first engage with them.
That's a great point, Greg. And let's just focus on if we're thinking about the plan. So we're assuming that you're considering, maybe you're in a stage where you're light on word of mouth or your network, which is so common. I hear it all the time. Just this week a couple of times. Focus on word of mouth, and then what we need to do now is we recognize there's a need to build a pipeline. There's a need to generate consistent demand. So kind of building the foundations. It's really about pick one particular target market, and then what we're going to do is we're then going to focus on attracting new and engaging our existing. And to me, that's as simple as you want to make it, because when you start thinking about all these, all the different types of social media, all the different types of paid campaigns, you're going to get lost, and you're also going to get fed up, because the more lines you add to your marketing activities, then it's harder to measure. You've got people doing lots of different things. Where I would recommend you start is exactly what Greg said. What's the low-hanging fruit? Low-hanging fruit, particularly if you're established, is your existing database, is your existing network. So build a communications plan around how do we educate them and get them to see us as someone that they can go to again and again. Typically that's through email, but perhaps if you've got LinkedIn and your clients and your contacts live there, then maybe it's a sort of dual approach. But it's really about building that communications cadence, something you can commit to. I think when it comes to that new pipeline, from a B2B point of view, we're just discussing off air, it's really about generating, picking one particular focus point to start with. So B2B, to me, LinkedIn is the biggest opportunity for a lot of firms, because we know we can target. They live on there. They hang out on LinkedIn. The other aspect that's really coming through, which is interesting, is TikTok, which is essentially, you wouldn't think that there's a B2B opportunity there, but it's something to consider in the next year or so. If you're completely new to marketing, just have a play with TikTok. Just go on TikTok and search, business, and just see what comes up. And it might actually get you thinking about how you can educate your customer a little bit more. But I go back to the idea of building that communication plan. As we talk about, it's the foundational stuff first. Pick a target market, and then it's about picking, one avenue, which is your existing customers first. Then you can start to sort of build demand. So with the new sort of approach. So how do we represent that, Greg? Is it a plan on a page? Is it how much detail do we want to go with when we start by building our marketing plan or our marketing system?
I think a plan on a page is a great idea. How do you represent all of those things that we've talked about? So who is your target market, first of all, and why are you doing it? Those sort of things. What's your vision and mission for your business beyond what's in it for you? If you can't articulate what's in it for your clients, then you're really going to be struggling with any marketing message to start with. So putting that on a page is a pretty simple process. Having vision, mission, values. How do you show up in the marketplace? I think that's an important factor that a lot of people don't even realize or even think about before they think about how do we get out there. So
yes.
Who are we? What do we represent? What do we stand for? Who do we stand for? And who do we help? And then breaking that down into the focus. And I really think that's a very important thing that you've talked about. Don't be everywhere. Ultimately we want to be everywhere, but if you're just getting started, focus is so important. And I think then the next important thing you just said was education. So in part of what we do, we need to be educating our market about what they need to solve their problems. And typically we've thought of promoting ourselves as putting our name out there. How often have I heard we'd failed at advertising and marketing efforts? At least we got our name out there. I laugh when I hear that, because these days we don't want our name out there. We want their name, our clients' names in here, in our database, so that we can communicate more specifically and more intimately with them. So what's our plan, to get their name on our database? And then what's our plan to communicate with them beyond that point? How do we then make our marketing communications specific to their needs so that they find value in that process? We want our communication with our clients to be so valuable to them that they look forward to our next email. And then when we actually help them solve a problem, they want to jump on the phone and call us to say, come and help. That's the plan that I recommend creating. Might take a page to map that out, and then some specific detail about some of the ways we implement that plan. But most of it can be systemized beyond that, having flowcharts that map out the various steps in the process. What's the communication that gets people onto a landing page where they put in their email address? What are we going to send them? What emails follow that? What other promotions or presentations do we have that would interest them that we can add into the mix there? That's the planning component of it, to map that out and to really then systemize that process so that happens over and over again, automatically in the background, ideally, without us having to be there.
I was just going to say, imagine that, our clients looking forward to getting an email. I thought I just had to have a chuckle, because it's almost like a I don't know, like a skit that like a comedy show thing, like, because I mean, how often do we get emails and go, oh man, this is spam? But you're right, like it actually is possible, and I've had instances where clients or people in my database have actually replied back and said, wow, that's so valuable, it's really helped me solve a problem. Or comment on LinkedIn and say, you've just helped me put together my positioning for me, or clarify that. So there are ways to do that. And I think when you were talking about the database build, again, just to remove some complexity there, we're not suggesting necessarily you spend time, resources putting together a 52-page report that people can download on your website, which then has some fancy automation. Then you've got to promote it. Two very simple ways that I would suggest that work well. Use LinkedIn to connect and build your network with the right sort of people. You don't need to spend lots of money on advertising. You don't need to build a big thing. You just need to get clear about who you want to work with, who are potential collaborators, who are your perfect future client. So from a network and from a building the right types of people, start with LinkedIn. You've probably got a LinkedIn account. You can search, whether it's the basic search, or if you want to be more in depth, you can use Sales Navigator, obviously. But just try building a network, because that way you'll start to you have direct line to them, yes, but also once you start building your network consistently, you'll see it grow. The sort of people that then you can, when you start doing content, they will see that. It's not everyone will see it. It's the people that you want to work with or collaborate with see that. So the first thing is use LinkedIn as a way to build your network and build your influence. The second way is, if you are thinking about doing some sort of lead capture or lead magnet or some sort of tool, then again, use LinkedIn as a starting point. You can put it on your featured profile. You can talk about it in some content. But secondly, if you want to do something, then I recommend just focusing on solving one problem with that document or with that piece of content. And don't, to me, we've touched on this before on this podcast, but you really want to make it very simple. You don't want a long document. It's a 1-page PDF or a 3-page report, something super simple they can consume within a sitting, within 7 minutes, 10 minutes. Don't make them jump through hoops. Just give them something super valuable. As an example, we've got this, one of the most powerful lead magnets that I've seen is I think it's about 2 pages long, and it's a bunch of different models that you can use to conceptualize and talk about your idea. I mean, how powerful is that? You're able to, that piece of that document I've used multiple times, and I'll always think of that person who I downloaded that document from. So when we think about lead magnet, or we think about building our network, which is stage 1 of that marketing plan, then use what you already have. Use LinkedIn. And if you want to do something a bit more in depth, then go simple with it, but just solve one problem.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Just to
and
I think just to kind of wrap this topic up with a bow, really around the building a sort of successful marketing plan. We're really sort of talking about get simple with it. So build the foundations first. Be clear about who you want to serve, so your target market, and just get some key activities that you want to focus on. Don't try and do everything. And then I think the other piece was around getting it measured, so you can automate it, which is the ideal play. But if you can't measure it, then don't try and do it. If social media isn't, to me, it's not not very measurable unless it equates to new names, new leads, opportunities, that kind of thing. So what, would you like to add anything around this, how we build that successful marketing plan that we haven't already covered, Greg?
Yeah, I think just one final point, and what you've said there was brilliant. But one final point, just to really emphasize what we're trying to achieve in our marketing process and what we need to be planning for. And I think the mistake a lot of people make in marketing is to say, we want to advertise to get clients. And of course, that's what we want, but there's a few steps we need to create through that process. So I think it's really good to understand that our marketing is about generating leads that we can then sell to. So the first thing we want with our marketing is to, build that database of people that we can then communicate to nurture and to sell to. So our marketing should not be aiming to sell anything.
Yes.
It should be aiming to provide value to people so that they opt in and get listed on our database, so that we then can build a relationship, add value, and nurture that relationship until they understand that, well, we're going to provide so much more value when they start to pay us.
I love that. I love that, Greg. You've nailed it. And I think it's a great way to end this podcast. So, Greg, where can we find you online?
Yeah, well, definitely. We've talked about LinkedIn, and you'll find me there. Just search for Greg Roworth and they'll come up, and or go to my website at businessflightpath.com.
Great. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Andy Marmont, or the website is concurve.com.au. You've been a wonderful listener. Thank you so much. We will see you next time on The Accepted Authority. I'm Andy Marmont. That's been great. Greg Roworth. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Bye.